Okay, welcome team to the Monday, November 17th gathering of the Lunenburg Building Design Committee. This is being recorded, so those who would like to see it at a later date, please feel free to join. Those who would like to join, this is kind of an open meeting, so if you feel like you have something to say, feel free to say it more than anything else. So at this time, I am going to look and let's see, we have our thanks, so we'll call the meeting. All right, first of all, have folks gotten, Brian, thank you again for the meeting minutes. I know it wasn't supposed to be a full-time job, but you seem to be doing amazing at it. So I don't know how you can give it up, but that's okay. So everybody got a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
All
Yep.
right. I'm going to look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of November 3rd, 2025.
I'll second.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Let me go around the room. I'll go with what do we got here? We'll go with Greg,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Laura,
Yes.
Brian,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and an aye for me. So unanimous. Okay. Thank you again, Brian. Okay. I see Steve W. Steve W. Just a member of the public that would like to just listen, or is there, because this is my moment, I'm going to ask about public comment. Oh, can't hear you if you're talking. Go ahead.
Pressing all the right buttons. I'm the chair of PAC.
Oh, I got
and,
you.
Steve Walker, I do just use Steve W. So thank
No,
you.
that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I knew who was on and things of that sort. So, okay. All right. So are you wanting to chat with us, or are you just looking to listen for now?
Somewhere in between. I'm here to listen, and if you have questions or I have questions, I'd appreciate the ability to respond.
Okay. Very good. All right. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate that.
Dave,
Okay.
he's actually here because of comments that I had email traffic back and forth with Steve about master plan business. And I mentioned to him that we had begun looking at the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee's, placement of people. And, we've been talking about them being people in town hall. And I thought it might be good to get some feedback from him as we talk about where people are going to be town hall Ritter, and how this relationship between staff that meets public versus staff that doesn't meet public. So that was one of the things I says, why don't you join the conversation or listen, watch the meeting, and if there's something that's of importance, you can jump in and provide some feedback on that, since we've been talking about them being a part of the project.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for the clarification, Tony. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Well, Steve, welcome. And like I said earlier, this is I don't know how to run a formal meeting. So it's really more of, if you feel something you like to chat about, feel free to either chime in, raise a hand, jump up and down, or do whatever you like to get our attention to chat. Okay, excellent. All right, so at this point, I'm going to ask public comments from any of the members in the group. Okay, all right, perfect. Okay, so wanted to continue our conversation from last time. Really enjoyed the conversation. I thought we had some really ideas were flowing, thoughts were flowing, and things of that sort. I guess, Steve, for your, I was going to go into what, well, Brian, you have a hard stop at 6 for now, right?
Yeah, I have a short select board meeting at 6. It's on Zoom though, so I might be able to do both. We'll see.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. Would you like to discuss the Excel spreadsheet that Chris Ruth was able to put together for us, or should we be just looking at discussing a little bit more about future plans for town hall?
I'm up for whatever, but I think it's nice to have Steve here if we want to talk about PAC and talk about the second floor, if that makes sense for PAC.
Perfect.
There was also discussion too about the gas station before. We had brought that up. I don't know if PAC would, if it would make sense even for PAC to use that space too, because I know that's like available. It's town-owned property. So if he hasn't any opinion on that one too.
Okay, so Steve, the discussion has gone that we are looking at doing, at leaving town hall as a meeting hall. And as a meeting hall, the thought would be to make the first floor mostly for, well, let me see if I can pull it up, but make it like 4 meeting rooms. And then the second floor would be, open for you guys as a PAX studio space. We thought the feeling was it gave you guys the high ceilings. We would be looking at putting in a regular elevator. We'd also be looking at changing the front facade to be handicap accessible. So in other words, there would be a ramp, and things of that sort. Let me see if I can pull this up. Which file was it? I think it's this one. Here we go. Bear with me a second here, please. I'm just trying to give you a indication of some things that were thought about, just so we're on the same page here. Come on. Of course, my thing has to go screwy on me because I'm trying something. Here we go. Okay. All right. Okay, so let me go zoom. No, I need to go here, share, share. All right, is anything popping up that resembles what looks like the first floor of town hall?
Yes.
Okay, so when we had the last architect, we hired the last architect, and I'm not saying this is how we would keep things or anything like that. Their proposal was to we were talking about having town hall as a meeting space. The meeting space would be for town meetings. It would be open for, say, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, other folks who wanted to have space and have meetings, as well as any meetings that would look to be broadcasted in the town. So this was a quick rendition of what they put together for the town hall, with the idea of being 3 conference rooms, an office, some storage, which is the old vault. If we look at the old vault, that's the storage and things of that sort. So this would be the first floor. And then, the second floor would look more like a open gallery. And then what's known as the hearing room right now. And, you have your cable access operations, the control room that's there now, and the idea of being able to make this however and whatever configuration that you guys wanted. The elevator would not be back in the back. The thought was that the elevator should be front and center. So when somebody came in the front door, if they needed an elevator, they didn't have to feel like they were relegated to walking through the whole building to get to an elevator, or especially a wheelchair through the whole building, that the elevator would be up front, maybe in this office A area or something like that. And then that would be similar, it would go upstairs to wherever that would be upstairs, probably a landing area up here in the gallery of some sort. So the thought is that it has the high ceilings. If we're gutting the first floor and redoing it, there's things we can do about 100-year-old noises and other interesting things in there. There's also things we can do regarding, windows and controlling light and other things as we look as a renovation of this building. So it would be very interesting for this committee to get your guys' thoughts of whether something like this might work.
I can see how it can be made to work. One thing that we've constantly talked about, right now, the salaries of the videographers is starting to exceed our budget. That's because so many meetings are being asked to be recorded.
Okay.
We do everything we can. However, if we put all the meeting rooms close by each other, a videographer could run more than one, which would be very helpful to us. So we frequently made the comment about having meeting rooms adjacent to each other so we can easily reach them. You did, and I appreciate it, mention the creaky floor. That would have to go in terms of the creaks. The floor can stay because it's more convenient. I don't know what are we talking about the whole thing up here, or I guess the restroom stays, right, or not?
Yeah, well, we would need a rest, obviously, you would like a restroom up there.
Yeah,
But
okay.
the rest of
good.
this, think of it this way more as that the hearing room, the town manager's office, the office next to it, all those offices become just is like an open slate, more of an open slate.
Okay. We do need some closable spaces, but primarily the 900 or so square feet we have at the moment isn't sufficient because we've got everything in one 900 square foot classroom. This looks like it would give us not only more space, but give us the opportunity to have, for instance, an equipment room because we would need to be able to secure it and things like that. What I'm seeing, and this is first glance, and it's just me, looks very practical, very possible. Are we still leaving the high school auditorium as the town meeting space in terms of town meetings?
That is correct, yes.
Okay,
Okay, so the idea would be, downstairs, if it's a meeting that we're thinking it might be 40, well, let me go back downstairs. If I have this conference, the idea would be this, we'd look at it as a movable wall so that two conference rooms could be made into one. If you had a meeting if you had a meeting that you thought you were gonna get 60, 80 people at. But as you guys know, there's not that many in town that we get 60 to 80 people in.
correct.
And so the auditorium would still be for the town meetings. And this would be more for, the conference room A would pretty much house 90% of the meetings.
Mhm.
And well, as far as like maybe the board of selectmen, other boards that have visitors, conference room B might probably suffice for most meetings, but it's just a matter of how we do things.
Okay.
And by the way, this might be broken, this would probably be broken up differently. I would look at it as more of, this one being the conference room B being a longer conference room that could house more people, and the overflow being into the conference A area type of thing. Because you could always put a screen, we could always put a screen up there for those who couldn't see the stage from back there, but I look at it as you'd end up with like probably 700 square feet, and that should put quite a few people in.
Right.
800 square feet, yes.
So, yeah, what I'm seeing initially looks workable. We do need air conditioning. We do need not quite as much power as we used to need because now we have LED lighting and things like that. So that's a help with the whole thing. We do need equipment access, and from what I'm understanding, whatever you put in for an elevator would be adequate for moving equipment up and down. Is that true?
That is correct. Well, let's put it this way. We have determined that whatever you do needs to be handicap accessible
Yes.
and a dignified handicap accessible, if we can say it that way. If I can be politically
Yeah.
wrong and say dignified handicap accessible, nothing like right now what they have that the elevator
Yeah.
today. I don't see how a handicapped person by themselves in a wheelchair could ever get in that elevator and in and out of that
Mhm.
elevator type of thing. Now, and the one at the one at the Ritter is even worse. Well, maybe not, but it's close. Second.
Yeah. So where do all the administration buildings go, offices go?
They'll end up at town, they'll end up at the Ritter.
Okay, that was kind of my guess from what you described so far.
Correct, correct. This would be basically looking at it as mostly evening meetings. You might have it where I could think maybe the Boys and Girls Club might want a conference room for a study room during the afternoons. But
Mhm.
that's about it. The problem with the Boys and Girls Club right now, I gotta stop calling it that, especially as a board member. The problem with the teen center is that they're getting 80 kids a day.
Oh,
And
wow.
and when you get 80 kids and most of them are wanting to play, there's not a lot of room for kids to study that actually want to study.
Yeah,
So,
gotcha.
that's what the thought would be. It's because they run into the problem if they go to the library, they have to put extra staff, they have to split the staff up to go to the library. You can split the
Okay.
staff here more easily. Anyway,
Right.
so that's the thought right now would be, and then, whether we do the basement would be basically, um, uh, you know, made secure, the stone foundation, all those things. However, I don't know if there was if we've even gotten to a discussion of whether there's anything done with the dirt floor or anything like that.
Hmm.
Because I don't think you guys are wanting to store things in the basement.
Preferably not. Moisture and video don't get on well together.
And moisture and anything, right? And especially town records don't seem to be, our town records, I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think would be doing well down there. So,
Right.
that's the thought. The thought would be that you guys would end up with, a substantial space up here
Hmm.
to do what you would like,
Okay.
okay? And that would lead, as things, that would, this, as the stage is just a stage. It's not something that has to be a permanent structure.
Okay.
But if that helped you guys having something like that where you're running wire, I don't know how it helps you, but it's things of that sort too.
Right. There's no reason that we can't build a um, equipment maintenance and training area and things like that in that area.
Right,
The 1350 square feet in the hearing room leaves enough for us to put our primary studio in there and have enough room around it. We would have to take care that if people are trying to get in to, take an editing class or something and the studio is in use, that they can get there without disturbing the studio. But that's something we would need to look at, and it would be our responsibility to make sure that happens properly.
correct, yes. And in fact, I looked at it as if you had this, I don't know if my cursor works, but if you had this side where there was a, equipment storage, your editing,
Mhm.
and the elevator was coming up here,
Yeah.
there's obviously a way we can make easy access to get in there, get to your equipment room, and maybe somebody can come in that way and not disturb the studio that could be over here.
Right. Can
Is
I
there-
possibly have a copy of this drawing? Would you mind
Sure.
sending me one?
Sure. If you want to throw in the chat, throw me your town email, and I will gladly forward the whole thing to you.
It's also,
Okay.
Steve, it's on the
Yeah.
website too. It's
Oh,
on the
thank you.
town's
Oh, it is?
website. Yeah, if you go to the town's website and you go to the Municipal Building Design Committee page, and you go to on the left-hand side in the blue margin, the top one is the latest architectural plans. You can find
Okay.
it in there.
In fact, here,
Okay.
let me go to the first page. This is basically what, it was Taylor and Burns, Lunenburg
Yeah.
Municipal
Taylor
Building.
Burns, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
that was what's gonna happen, Laura. It's all yours.
How do you envision the needs of PAC changing over the next 10 years? Because you talked about how the power requirements have lessened a lot. How do you see the needs of PAC as evolving in the future?
It's difficult to predict because technology does change. We would have the interface to the cable system. That probably would change because we would like high definition, and maybe it needs to be a fiber interface rather than a cable interface. Not entirely sure which way we're doing it at the moment. Our entire system is high definition. We believe that's sufficient. We have to put a new server in next financial year is what we're budgeting. That'll ensure that's good for at least 8 to 10 years. I don't see a need for us to consider things like 3D television because that doesn't seem to be working particularly well. High definition does matter. Good audio does matter. And if we can manage those things from the ground up, and we're in pretty good shape. The audio in the present meeting room, we spent ARPA money to make that way better than it was. But I'm only seeing additions of things like a podcast area, which does need to be soundproofed, but that's something we'll have to start to look into and see how it would fit in and needs more discussions. We can certainly draft something that meets our present requirements with the knowledge that this is what we've got. There isn't going to be more. And it's going to be permanent. So that's one of our magic words we need at the moment. Right now, we're broadcasting at standard definition. Everything we do is in high definition, which is plenty good enough to be able to see documents on your home TV, unless you have a standard TV. So it would really help some of the meetings. Did that cover it? Or?
Part of my question was because in the past 10 years, things have changed technology wise, as far as some people don't need a big studio as much anymore because of what you can do with green screens and digital. So I'm asking, I guess, what you see as changing in the future for you guys and space needs or configuration needs.
Yeah, right now we do use the studio because even if you use a green screen, you've got to have an appropriate place for green screen, appropriate lighting, which is non-trivial. It's got to be shadow free, basically, for it to work well. And people get comfortable in a studio. I wouldn't be seeing that because our physical studio piece, the framework, is an adequate size because we got a deal on all the truss work that holds the lights up. And the LED lighting, if it gets to be using less power, then it wouldn't be able to see anything because it'll be off. I'm seeing that if anything, power needs would tend to go down, but not as noticeably as moving from LED, from tungsten to LED, for instance. It also is better for air conditioning as well, which would be neat. Cameras as well as people don't like hot and humid air, so which we get on July the 4th each year, something like that. So,
Okay. What do you see as, like, if you had to predict 20 years from now, which I know is difficult to ask, what do you, for example, what would your biggest expense be or your biggest need be in like 20 years based on what you've seen so far?
I think it's difficult to call. I mean, First off, I shall either be in a box or a wheelchair because I shall be over 100 by then. um, the need to have meetings may change. That's something actually I would feel isn't good. I know you're doing this by Zoom. My apologies in advance, but actually meeting people and being able to have side discussions and all the rest of it. My background comes out of the research labs at a telephone company, what was GTE. And if you're trying to be creative, and we try and bring people in, they can be creative, you really are better seeing each other. Not sure how much the equipment will change. We can improve quality, but 20 years out, assuming we've still arranged adequate funding for PAC, then it would be very difficult to say if I had my way, I would add a kitchen studio, add a podcast studio and a voiceover booth and things like that. But really not hugely different, bearing in mind that, this started based on the Cable Act of 84, if I remember correctly. So we've been 84, so that's 40 plus years from now. Going back, we have seen changes, but not huge ones. The principle of what we're trying to do is to get the town's activities available to people who can't necessarily come to them. And I'm not sure that's going to change very much, but
Okay. I know that was an absolutely ridiculous question, but it turns out you are like the one person who can answer that with a background in the research and telecommunications.
well, yes, I hope that was useful to you, and thank you for your kind words.
Steve,
Yes,
your cable contract is up for renewal in 2028.
yes,
So I believe, is that
yes,
correct?
28th of February at midnight.
Yeah, and so there's two issues. One is that this project will, if it moves forward, we're going to be right in the middle of probably construction when your cable contract is scheduled to expire. So
Yeah,
that may be something that has to be taken into consideration as the cable negotiations move forward. I think there's been a committee established to start that process.
not sure if it's been talked about. It's last time we did it, it was called the Cable Advisory Committee. I was actually on it. We only have one to negotiate because Verizon do not want to come into Lunenburg for video and internet services. We have money put aside, and what we would use if this was well underway in terms of a plan and likely to be accepted by town meeting, that would give us a stronger place to say we need capital infusion as well. We do have money put on one side for a new studio, but we are starting to have to dip into that to pay our basic expenses, because while income from Comcast is going down, actually Lunenburg's not doing too badly on that front. Some other packs have had serious numbers, had to lay lots of people off and things. They're bigger than we are. So
That's a reflection of you get money from Comcast based on how many cable subscribers they have. And the whole issue of cable subscribers is under attack because of streaming. They need internet, but not necessarily cable TV, correct?
right. And as I've talked about before, excuse me, the going through the legislature in Boston is a streaming bill. I can't give you a huge amount of detail because they don't have it, but the what's happening, what used to be and still is called cable cutting, is actually not cable cutting. What it is cutting video services, which is what our income is based on.
Right.
They're still using it for internet access. And from what I've seen, that still is better than trying to do it over the air. Now, over the air may improve, but doing it where actually the streaming services get a tax on them. So it's like a franchise fee on them for the state. We wouldn't be the first, by the way. Other states have done this. The idea initially was to set it so that we did not get a windfall out of it. In other words, where we were like 4 or 5 years ago, whatever our best 3 years were, something like that. And the same with all the other packs around. That's where they would try and get us back to. That money would be collected by the state, not by the town. And some of it would go to the state to actually run the process. Some of it would go to the town in our case, and some of it would go to public access for what they need to do. So one way or another, we provide, certainly I think, and I'm totally unbiased on this, I think PAC provides a wonderful service of getting our meetings out to people who wouldn't necessarily see or know what's going on, which is a great help. And I hope we can manage to not only keep doing that, but do it better day by day. Sorry, that was my chairman's hat.
Do you see any technical improvements coming as a result of the negotiation with the new contract?
For us,
Or,
yes, the ones that what I would like, and I tried to do this last time, is first I would like to add a fourth channel of high definition, and on that we would put the best of PAC. Or we could just leave that designated for government meetings, because frequently they're the ones where you want the resolution so you can see presentations that are being set up. I would love for us to be able to get on the electronic program guide. So far, they've absolutely refused to do that. Going forward, depending on how the law changes, I would prefer we have all 3 channels as high definition with quality audio. There was a third one as well. I'm trying to remember what it was that we tried to get into the contract 7 years ago, or whatever it was. But those are key ones. So,
I think that, you know, when this project has viability, I mean, I think that we're going to get something done here. And I think it's going to be critical that we have good communication between, you know, PAC and what's going on with its contractual agreement with Comcast, because that's going to affect what the capabilities of PAC is as this project, you know, moves forward. I don't, you
yeah,
know, you mentioned that you were looking that perhaps there'd be fiber optic rather than just cable, so you could do high definition. That's the kind of construction thing, you know, that has to be understood if we really have a design and a designer who's renovating space and
right.
needs to know, what am I putting into this project? So those are things that we got to have some pretty quick, clear and open conversations as the
Hmm.
project moves forward. I know from my experience with doing construction projects, it seemed like we always failed to take into, because back in the old days, communication, telephone service, and office furniture. You know, in your case, you know, what kind of cable runs into the building and where it's at and how it's configured and how it's powered. Those
Right.
are things that we're going to have to make sure we understand, that the designer that we would hire has to understand in order to do this renovation work.
Right. It actually already runs into the right place in the building. So at least part of it is in good shape. We would need at the right time to bring in a studio design expert, somebody who's done this many a time before and can come up and help us with things like, for heaven's sake, don't do that, and please definitely do this. So while we're all volunteers and we all have different backgrounds, we try to be creative, we try to stay ahead of the game, but we're not necessarily the best bunch of people when you look at the whole of it. So, does that make sense? That looks like a cat.
It did. Thank you. Yes, it is. My cat decides she likes to join the meetings.
Excellent.
Excellent. Steve, we really appreciate you stepping in here. I mean, guys, other questions for Steve regarding PAC? And I could be asking about that wonderful scenery behind him, but I figured he's mostly here on behalf of PAC, so that would probably be the questions here. Well,
That's my green screen.
Okay. Yeah, everybody needs one.
Politically, what do you think the likelihood of the streaming bill is going to get approved? What's the sense there, Steve?
I think it has to get approved, but what I can't tell you is what its format will end up being, because they don't know either at this point. The group we belong to, called Mass Access, is a gathering of most of the PACs in Massachusetts, and they have been making presentations to the appropriate committees. But different people, especially when you involve politicians who have an agenda that isn't necessarily what we're trying to achieve here, don't always understand the importance of what we're trying to do. So they keep shuffling the numbers around. I can't tell you, all I can tell you is the last session, it got further than the previous session. I cannot predict, you really shouldn't ask me to predict. I cannot predict the when this might happen. Right now, we are down from, I think, just over 200,000. We managed to double our income with the last contract, and it was the legal maximum, which is 5%. So we can't pull that one again. As we put all of this together, we may end up needing slightly less, but I can't predict that at the moment. The chances of this going through would bring us back to where we were. I think it's, first off, it's better than it was of it getting through. We have a couple of representatives who are very positively on our side, as well as a legal firm that's employed by Mass Access. We pay some dues to them. So we're in much better shape, and it hasn't been killed. So, but yeah, I would certainly love to see that move to the point where it stands a good chance of passing.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, thank you. I mean, this is, like I say, that, and Tony, I agree with Tony 100%. This, in order for this thing to really get legs and get the momentum it needs, we're looking to make sure that all parties involved understand what's going on and are able to work within the plan, with the plans we come up with.
Yeah. So if you need me at a meeting and can at least give me a little notice, I would appreciate it. I'm happy to come in. I'm also happy to leave you to it at this point, if that's okay. And you can do all the rest of the work. But if you have questions, also feel free to send them to me.
Okay.
We typically have a meeting Monday evenings, the first Monday of the month.
Okay.
So
Excellent.
Okay, well, I
Excellent.
appreciate the invitation. I hope it's been useful to you. It's actually been very useful to me, and I'll
Super.
take that to our committee meeting in December. So thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
You-
All right,
You're
guys.
welcome.
And I'll just one thing. Any other questions or comments from the committee? All right. Excellent. Excellent. All right, so thanks. Let's move on for our next thing then. I appreciate it. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank
Uh,
you.
all right, so I think I just stopped sharing. So I got that. What I'm gonna do now is we're gonna move over to the other, hopefully, guys, thank you, Tony, for suggesting that he join us. It sounds like the space might work well. I hate this. One of the things I was trying to show there is, the present town hall, almost the room sizes and some of the things work out just as well as, if not better than what was proposed by Taylor and Burns. Let me throw that up again just so that you guys can see. Host, how can we share? No, that's not what I want to do. Share, let me share this again, share. So if I looked at it, let me go to the first floor. This is the present first floor. And this would be up here. Let me get rid of that and go back to a pointer, get rid of this. Okay. This is that conference room C. They took this one and they brought it over here and to this wall, and that's the large conference room. And then this wall to here is conference room B. So it's really is not changing what we have today in town hall. This room in the back here became a restroom. So we had 1, 2 restrooms. And then this area is really that changes the most, because you have the man lift. I won't call it an elevator, the man lift. I think this is a restroom right now, if I remember right, and then a storage room. So if I look at this compared to this, there's not a heck of a lot of difference, if you guys can see. Okay.
Yep.
All right. The big difference became the second floor. And I feel bad because we just had him step off, but even if we left, so if we can get the elevator in this area right here, and you can leave this room and this room, it would could give us 2 offices. And then leaving the rest of this all for PAC. It's
Might
just,
be able to leave it as is what you're saying, or,
yeah.
minimal, of course,
Min-
yeah.
And when we talked about trying to, adjacent, we'll get into it in a minute. When we talked about adjacencies, we talked about Chris and the facilities not really needing to be with everybody all the time. And, maybe he still can have an office up here, but who knows? And it's obvious that if there was an elevator, I guess I could put Veterans Affairs up on the second floor, but that's not really, that wouldn't really be the key focus there, or anything like that. I'm just looking at it as it could be the idea of 2 additional rooms up on the second floor for this. Okay. All right, so let me stop sharing this. I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to jump over now to the document that Chris put together for us. So let me share and go to this document and share. And okay, could everybody see this now?
Yep.
All right, let me just move everybody a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure I can still see everybody and all that stuff. All right, so Chris Ruth went ahead and he did a first pass for, okay, this is who needs to be together. This is who can not talk to each other and stuff like that, okay? Or not talk to the public. And where to go with it? Okay, and this is what he got for us. Why am I not able to do this? Okay, all right. Okay, so did folks have a chance, did anybody have a chance to look at this and kind of go through it, and any thoughts or comments at first? Pass?
Yeah, I took a look at it. I think, I mean, first of all, I know, I don't think Chris is on the call, but I really appreciate him doing this.
Yes,
It, it helps us refine things a little. I mean, I don't, I didn't really have any comments other than I think I agree with it. I mean, it looks like it looks like it's accurate to me. It doesn't really show adjacencies. I don't think we've developed it to that point yet, but it shows it's the first step in that process with, what would need to be public facing, non-public facing, and that kind of thing. Unless the columns here are intended to be sort of adjacencies, maybe that's what he's communicating.
yeah, Greg, I'll have to agree. I don't think it shows adjacencies, and I think it's things we can talk about.
Yeah,
And that's what I
but
would really, that's what I wanted to kind of talk about.
Yeah.
Our thoughts on adjacencies right now first, but
Yeah, and also square footage. I confess I was crunching some numbers while Steve was talking. So I think we should try to dial in on what we think we might need for square footage too. And I don't want to talk out of turn, so we could talk about that later. But
right, agree. So, as far as thoughts on adjacencies, personally, I look at assessors, town clerk, and treasury and tax collector to kind of be one style or one group. If I go to the other side, you have the planning functions. You would have building, conservation, planning, and which is, if I bear with me a second here, why am I not able to do this? Because I now messed up my screens. Oh boy, oh boy. All right, let me get rid of that. Oh, so he had it down here. So you had conservation, board of health, planning, and building department, all kind of as another group of adjacencies. So if I look at this and I say, okay, if I take this group and I can go this filter sort, I can't, I don't have Excel access, sorry about that. But I can go, taking this group here and saying,
Yep.
okay, they need to be together.
Yep.
And I take this group, and this group, and say they need to be together. Does that make sense to folks?
Yeah. I honestly, I don't know that the clerk needs to be together with the assessors and treasurer. But I think it makes sense to put them together. But I'm not sure that that's a need.
Okay, yeah, I think you're right.
I think the
there.
assessors and the treasurer probably would make sense. But I think you could have the town clerk, I don't know if that has to be. I mean, the town clerk theoretically interfaces with everybody. So
Yes.
you could probably make an argument that the town clerk needs to be adjacent to everybody. So, but what I mean is, to say is, I don't think it's wrong to put those adjacent to each other. But I'm not sure that the clerk really needs to be adjacent to them.
And by the way, if you look at that, if I add up the amount of people that we talk about here between assessors, town clerk, and treasurer, we're looking, oh wait, treasurer, yeah, we're looking at 9 employees there. And if I look at I look at building commissioner, building admin, town planner, planning, board of health, conservation, and their person, you'd be looking at 8. So
Yep.
it's very similar in the amount of people. I would look at it as probably being similar in the amount of square feet needed, with the ability to have some kind of, a couple of conference rooms to be able to, once, for the building side, to be able to spread plans out and things like that. And B, for the town side, to be able to meet with groups or meet with, 6 to 8 people, have 6 to 8 people at once being able to meet in a meeting.
Dave, based on the number of 8 and 9, that's 17 people. And if you use 165 square feet per person, which is like an industry standard, which does include some common area space allocations, you're looking at 2,800 square feet for that big chunk of public facing people. The treasurer, the public, the principal assessor and her staff. So that kind of gives you a pretty good handle on that chunk of square footage and what we're looking for. I mean, I think that going back to this notion that we want to build an affordable project, I think we need to really keep track of that square footage figure. It ballooned out of sight with the Taylor and Burns effort. Now, part of that was because we ended up with a bunch of hallway space and things which we got to avoid, with regards to how we do the multi-level grade changes. But the one thing that I was going to say is that we also got to keep in mind, I'm so fearful of having all of our employees so accessible. And in particular, the person that I'm most fearful for is the town manager, because that's the person who really takes, a lot of guff from people. And while I want to see our public facing employees, be relatively, accessible by the public, I still think that we really need to keep some sort of control over how close people can get, how fast they can get to those people. In particular, someone like the town manager. So when we do those layouts, I think we really need to keep that in mind, is that we got to make sure that we kind of have a buffer for people who meet with the public on a regular basis. And then the people who are non-public, we can bury them in the building someplace, you know. But and I think those will be easy spaces to design. But I really do worry about, people like the town manager and the tax collector. Those are people that take some heat sometimes. And we got to make sure that we can control that access.
They're almost like
Yeah, go
they're
ahead.
almost like semi public facing.
Yeah.
There's some people in that office that are going to be public facing, and there's some people in that office that aren't going to be. I think,
So let me look at it this way then, guys. What I was just trying to find out, and I couldn't find it anywhere, is last meeting, we talked about the annex extensively. And what I was trying to find out was how many square feet there is at the annex.
in the one that Taylor and Burns designed.
Nope. I'm looking at our present,
65 annex, right?
the 65
Oh.
annex. How many?
I think it's 30. I just measured. That's what I was crunching when we were talking, when Steve was talking. I think it's 30 by 60.
All right. So that would be
I think it's about
1,800.
1,800 square feet. Call it 2,000.
All right.
And that
So-
includes the big area with the I guess the bathrooms, and there's really only 800 square feet that I can see in there that's being used by the planning office. 700 or 800 square feet. It's being used for office space.
Okay. So
So
I'm gonna look at that. Then if we look at that, and we talked about, well, I would look at that and say if there was a way that we can figure out how that could be 2 stories,
yeah.
we're in real good shape.
Well, I did the math on this a little. If you would you mind if I opine on this a little?
No, go for it. This is, I think, like I say, this to me
Yeah.
can make this project like,
So
you know.
the first floor, or the footprint of the town hall, is 3,250 square feet. Okay, times 2 stories. All right, but most of the first floor is So essentially what we need to do, we need to account for that first floor of town hall plus the town manager's office.
Right,
And some of the first floor, isn't, we got staircases and things. We've got the front entryway, we've got the stairs. And then, the town manager's office, might be, I don't know, 700 square feet. I didn't have it dimensioned on the plan I was looking at, but let's just say for the purposes of discussion, it might be something around 4,000 square feet that we got to add in. You see where I get that? First floor of town hall, 3,250, plus maybe another 750 on the second floor. I'm rounding. It might not be that high. I'm just saying 4,000 square feet.
Why only 700? Oh, you mean of current in use office space?
Current and use offices. So town manager's office
Okay.
is about 750 square feet. I'm guessing. I didn't have a dimension plan, but it's something like that. So 4,000 square feet, something like that is actually being used in the town hall for office space. Again, that includes hallways and everything like this, but I'm just saying something roughly like this. We have to add that, I think, just generally speaking, and it might not be 4,000, but whatever the number is, we have to add that to the Ritter building, right?
We don't necessarily. So what is the Ritter building office square footage?
I don't know, but it doesn't matter because I'm just assuming that we're using it all.
Well, I
we
guess
may
my
not
question
be,
is,
but I'm
at
just
at
just
some
trying to-
point, at some point we shifted to, we're definitely going to use the Ritter as opposed to, I'm wondering if at some point it makes sense to put a meeting room in the Ritter and use
Oh,
all of
yeah.
town hall for offices.
Oh, wow. I'm going through I'm not analyzing that.
I'm just because
We might need to. I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm just saying my
I'm just-
analysis is based on.
like at some point we kind of shifted into this is the plan.
Well, and I'm not trying to say it is. I'm just trying to talk about if it was, this is what we need. Kind of analysis.
yeah. Or I think the issue that, well, personally, the issue I see with town hall is parking. B, the footprint's the footprint. You can't make it more. So unless we were able to fit everybody, if we were able to get rid of the meeting room upstairs and fit everybody in there, I agree with you. Okay. However, when you still, is it the best use type of thing? And then what do we do? Then the next question becomes, what do you do with Ritter? That kind of thing. Does Ritter become the meeting facilities and stuff like that? I mean, the whole trick is not to leave a building with nothing in it.
Greg,
Yeah,
finish-
and
finish
just hear me
your,
out here. Like, I'm not, this analysis is not presupposing that this is the plan. I'm just trying to get to, like, if we wanted to do it this way, if we wanted to, like what we talked, where we're sort of headed to, I think, or discussing last meeting that Tony really presented was, if we were to rip off the 60s edition of the Ritter and build something there, what would that need to look like from a square footage standpoint? That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that's what we're going to do or anything, but I'm just saying, just so we can consider it. So effectively, we need to add 4,000 square feet to this building, and that maintains our status quo, right? So that wouldn't be future proofing and things like this. There's about 700 square feet that's being used currently today in that building, right? So if we were to rip that off, we'd need to take the 700 square feet of office space that's being used in that building now, add it to the 4,000 square feet of office space that's being used in the town hall. Let's call it 5,000 square feet, right? That's 4,700, but let's call it 5,000 square feet. Divide it by 2, because we're looking at a 2-story addition. You need something about a 2,500 square foot footprint, which would be an increase of about 700 square feet of footprint based on what we have there today. So that kind of gets us in the ballpark of what we're looking at. Is it 800 square feet, 900 square, it's something like that. It's something in the 25, 26, 2,700 square foot footprint, I think, that we're looking at adding there. So that would be taking off the 65 edition or whatever the date is, and adding a new building in its place that's 2 floors. You could reduce that if you went 3 floors, but I'm not sure anybody wants to do that. But you could certainly look to do that. That gets us in the ballpark for square footage. You know, we then have to think about, do we want to add room for future expansion and this kind of thing? That might be why we push that footprint up, but that gets us in the ballpark of what we're looking at for square footage. And by the way, using Tony's analysis of
Yeah,
165 square foot per employee, you know, puts us in that. You can see how you might use the floors, right? To make that happen. Like it seems like it might work into, it might play into you know, a design, you know, there's a design that could emerge there. I'm not saying, again, per Laura's point, I'm not saying that this is the plan. I'm just saying that, you know, you can get your arms around how we might look at something like that.
And I'm not saying I want to use town hall, because I think there's certainly, there's the parking considerations. And I think that it was really elegant to keep the meeting house a meeting house. I think that was a really elegant solution. I'm just saying that I feel like at some point we sort of went in a direction instead of taking a big step back and wondering. And to be perfectly honest, I understand combining town offices, but adding on space feels very strange to me when we actually have our current spacing needs are being met with the current configuration, minus a space for PAC, which will, pending what happens to TCP.
Okay, appreciate that. Greg, appreciate you putting that together. You know, it's all the data is very, very helpful.
Yeah, and please, anybody feel free to disagree with me. You know, people that have looked at these numbers. I was just putting together some quick, you know, back of the napkin type numbers as we were talking, because I meant to do it 2 weeks ago after our last meeting, but I forgot.
I completely agree with your numbers, Greg. And you know, and there's ways of creating that square footage in that general footprint of the 65 edition that would, I think, complement the Ritter and not be a detraction to Ritter. You know, the 65 edition, as it stands, I think is a god awful ugly addition to what Ritter is. And if we played around with creating a different kind of look with a two-story structure, you might actually create something that becomes a real, I mean, I can see all kinds of ways of architecturally enhancing that L shape structure to make it look like something that really pops, you know, in terms of appearance, especially given its relationship to the intersection. You know, whereas with the annex that Taylor and Burns had, it was on the opposite side of the building, and it didn't really, I don't think it would jump out like it would with an annex where the current 65 edition is. And the other thing that you bring up with regards to the 4,000 square foot, for those of us who've been around looking at this process, that's what we were thinking the annex would be before we started with Taylor and Burns and the big building that they created. I mean, if you go back and look at the meeting minutes, we were talking about 4,000 square feet. Now, you know, Laura, I think the one thing that we need to think about is the town managers have asked for their staffs to be together. And I think that that's one of the reasons why, you know, we're leaning more towards how do we create the consolidated town manager operation at Ritter versus at Town Hall. Because the Ritter footprint, you know, kind of lends itself to getting, you know, everybody in that space the way they need to be versus, you know, having people in Town Hall. I think it would be a press to get everybody in Town Hall. And then you have the issue of what do you do with the Ritter? I think the Ritter is a far better candidate for things like town administrative functions. And and town hall is a great candidate for meeting rooms, because that's what it is right now, except, we're talking about reversing the big meeting room from being on the second floor to go to the first floor. And it's a great place for PAC to be. And they don't have to be in a basement like what was proposed by Taylor and Burns.
Building off of what Tony brought up, I just want to point out it isn't just this arbitrary request from the town manager saying that she would like the two buildings, all the staff under one roof. Spending too much time in the town offices recently, it's a huge culture issue for this town, and it is impacting our ability to retain employees. It is impacting the ability for our employees to work together effectively. If you're speaking candidly with members of either building, they'll be happy to point out to you how the other building is the source of many problems in town. And it isn't good. We could go further about how it creates problems for townspeople themselves trying to come to offices, and they sometimes, it's less so now that we've moved a lot of permits online, but there are times they have to cross the street multiple times to get one job done. But I also want to point out, while we're talking about numbers, we're only right now discussing employee footprint. And one, we talk about if we want to future proof. I first want to say that I think future proofing is an absolute necessity. The town is not done growing. And if we think our current staffing needs are all we're ever going to need, I think we're woefully mistaken. I want us to be, I'd love it if we can coast where we are. The average town size, the mean town size in Massachusetts is 11,000 people, and the median town size is 9,000 and change. Lunenburg has 12,000 people and is actively growing, and that isn't going to stop. So we need to understand that we're actually, although we act like a small town, we're a big town, numerically. And we need government services that are going to keep growing, because one person can only do so much. Similarly, for square footage, I haven't heard it brought up, so I want to point out that the town clerk's office needs, in addition to normal employee space, needs the vault, and the current vault size, Jen has back of the napkin estimated, needs to be, I think it was about twice the current size. But that is something we're going to need to factor in as well, is the town clerk's vault. And that's going to be an additional square footage requirement. I don't know what other departments have what for record keeping needs. The town clerk's vault is the big one.
Absolutely. You're right about that. Yeah. I don't know. I'm no architect, and I don't, it seems to me, I think that Tony did an analysis last time about the existing 1965 edition is really, you wouldn't have to make the roof that much taller to get 2 floors out of it, because it's already got pretty high ceilings in there. You could consider doing something, you could consider doing a 3-story addition there. From a cost standpoint, I have no idea what the aesthetics would look like on this, because I'm a civil engineer, not an architect. But from a cost standpoint, doing more stories is more effective than than spreading it out. So you could do, because you either have to do an elevator to 2 stories or an elevator to 3 stories. Yes, it's a little more expensive, but it's not, it's not a huge addition. Once you get the elevator shaft and things in there, you got you shrink the foundation and, the roof and these kind of things. So if you did a 3-story addition, you took down the 1965 edition and you did a 3-story addition in roughly the same square footage, you're talking about now going from 1,800 square feet, which is what it is today, times 3, you're talking to going to 5,400 square feet. So you could future proof just by taking the 1965 edition, taking it off, putting a full basement on it and putting 2 floors above it, would give you, about, would give you almost 15% more space than, it would increase your space by 15%. When you look at what's in town hall and what's currently being used in the 1965 edition. So just something to think about. And that's using the same square footage. If you
Is
bump
that-
it out 200 square feet, you get, incrementally more space.
Greg, you might know, is that doable in the town center district? I know there's
Height
the,
wise,
t- go ahead.
you mean height, you mean building height wise?
Yeah, building height and number of floors wise. I know there's some different requirements in that district. I do not have them memorized.
Yeah, I don't either, but I have my book right here. So let's see. Go ahead and
So-
pause and I'll look it up.
Well, no, guys, listen, what I've thrown on the screen now is basically the
Yeah, there you go.
rendition of showing the annex in relationship to the Ritter right now, as it stands today.
Mhm.
And, we talk about it, it's, if you were gonna make the roof line the same roof line, a similar height,
Yeah.
you could put 2 stories there. It makes for an easy entrance, you're gonna eliminate those stairs in the front and almost have a flat entrance on that side. The grass in the front to the side, in the front of Ritter, the old Ritter building, that landscape can be moved around and done with to make it not a big slope or not as much of a basement, things like that. But I believe we have something with just town hall functions. I believe with the footprint of the annex, not the annex itself, but the footprint of roughly the annex and what town hall is today, we have most of what we need. It's not like we're looking at a huge addition,
Yeah.
that type of thing.
I
And
think
I
the
think-
massing
Yeah.
it seems to me, I'm no architect, but it seems like the massing could handle it. Just to answer your question, Matt.
Yeah.
250-417 of the ordinance is the town center and, the dimensional requirements, height limitations for non-residential and mixed use. Building height for mixed use or non-residential use shall not exceed 38 feet. And no building shall have more than 3 stories. So
Oh, great.
you can
Okay.
do it. And I don't even know if that would consider the basement in it. Like, I don't know if you count, I have to look at the definition of building height and stories, but might not even consider the basement as part of that. So I think it would be well within that framework.
Super. I just knew that I knew the town center has
Yeah.
different requirements and more stringent requirements than the rest of town does. So perfect.
That's good. It's good.
Tony, would a 3-story addition in the footprint of the current 1965 annex, are there ways to make that look good, or is it just not possible?
Oh, I think you can make it look good. I
Okay.
mean, this is the place where this is where we should have been concentrating on because of the elevation issues, And I think that doing anything to the 65 edition is going to make it look better. You know what? One of the things that drives me when I think about the 65 edition and its impact on the Ritter, we ended up painting the Ritter building because they probably couldn't match the brick when they did the 65 edition. And I would flog an architect who says to me, well, I can't get you the same brick. So what we'll do is we'll paint the brick for the old building and the same color as the brick on the new building. That is flogging. That's a reason to flog the architect. And that's exactly what must have happened, I mean, I look at maybe, we sandblast the Ritter and I don't know what kind of brick it is. You have to be very careful with sandblasting brick. But I look at this maybe being an opportunity to build an addition that looks really nice. At the same time, we take the Ritter back to what it was when it was built in 1909. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do by working on the addition in its relationship to the Ritter building.
So for me, my prime example of taking a old building adding something to it and making it look pretty cool is I love, if anybody's been to Harvard and they've seen the library, they took that old brick library, stone library, whatever it was, built an addition to it, and it kind of goes very cohesively. What shines is the old building, type of thing. And I believe that's something that we could do here too.
Harvard,
just a-
Harvard, Mass.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they did a great job of adding to that building without detracting from its beauty. Same thing, like Bolton has the
did
same.
too.
Yeah, Bolton did
did
as
the
well.
same thing.
Yes.
Bolton did a nice job too. Yeah.
And I believe, I agree with you guys that I think we can do that here. It's, as long as we have it on mind, we're not doing the cheapest thing possible. But we're doing something that looks right. And the other plan, I feel the other plan is to make sure that the front of Ritter and that whole space there gets to be more a town use. It gets used more than 9 to 5, or I should say 4 days a week. That that town center becomes a place to go again in town center, type of thing. That's at least my goal for this whole thing, more than anything else. I miss the fact that, the concert is not at the gazebo. I understand that. I understand why and all that stuff, but I missed that. I missed those little things that made me have a reason to go to town center, other than to get a permit or pay a bill, type of thing.
Pretty cool to put a little stage out the front of this building here that you're looking at here. And
My feeling is this: I can take a second story here, put like what would have been a platform stairs off this top thing, do another lower platform, like lower, and just have it so that there's a ramp to that lower platform. Handicapped accessibility to the top would be through the building, not, outside, but the outside would be public use. But you can have the band on the top and the bottom levels playing
sweet.
to everybody sitting in the lawn.
that would be sweet. That would be
It'd
sweet.
It'd be really nice, and making sure that there's bathroom accessibility from the outside, that's for the public on a weekend, that's not gonna affect anybody going into town hall. Security these days. Steel door, access doors are very common, type of thing.
Bathroom in the atrium, that's what I've been
Yes, exactly.
harping on since this started in 2019, was
Yeah.
bathroom access for the public that still closes town hall after town hall hours.
Right. It needs to be something that gets used, that brings people back to the center of town. Look, I feel bad for the farmer's market. The farmer's market at the center of town got seen. You drove by, you saw people there, and you said, "Oh, let me stop." I don't know how you guys are, but I don't go by Passios anymore. It's not in my roadmap around town, type of
No,
thing.
you're right.
So I don't even think about the farmer's market. And I feel bad. I like to see that as something that flourishes and taking care of those people. But anyway, so I know we're running into things. So it's sounding like I think we got a good feeling for concentrating on the annex side for the public facing functions, and looking at the old Ritter side, that second floor of the old Ritter side could be for those functions that are not as public seeking functions. Now, look, the building inspector's office, I'd love to give that to the town manager. That's an amazing office for her. You have the conservation, water district, and conservation, water, and district offices that can be made for the accountant and and the human resources and things like that. Other people that, oh wait, let me go back to that screen. Share. So
I gotta run, but I'll talk to you guys later.
all right, thank you so much, Laura, for your input.
got
Thanks
another
for
meeting.
everything.
Bye.
All right, can't imagine that. Okay, all right. So, we had the finance director, staff, and payroll. Fine, they're up there on the second floor near the town manager, which makes sense to me, putting them near the town manager. IT office, if the IT office ended up being still at the old Ritter in the town manager's office as it is today, or one of those offices today, does that really make a difference? If Chris ends up over there in another one of those offices. So we really, there's not a lot that we're missing out of
Yeah.
this whole, or Chris just stays where he is and the
I think-
basement Ritter.
Yeah, the basement. I think,
Okay?
I think that if we were gonna do a 3-story, basement plus 2 on a new addition, I think the 3rd floor would make a great town manager's office,
Yeah. It
Yep,
would.
you
But-
know?
But
Um,
Greg, I'm looking at it as what's wrong with what the with the fireplace in there? What's wrong with where the building inspector
Well,
is today?
yeah, who knows, but, yeah,
Right?
you're right, but
Yeah.
that also makes a nice conference room.
Understand, but I'm gonna
who
use,
knows?
Lisa's old room, the one that's gonna be so, sorry, let me go back the other way now. Hold on. Where am I here? Zoom.
So while you're
Zoom.
talking, this leads me to my next comment is that, I've said on multiple times in this call that I am not an architect. However,
Right.
I can draft.
Yeah,
So if someone, maybe his initials are AC or AAS or TS, excuse me, Tony Scalabrini. If someone wants to kind of bubble this out, I'm happy to take a crack at drawing something. It won't look like an architect's plan, but it'll at least be a schematic that we can look at it.
I'd love to do that, Greg.
If you redline me something with
Yeah.
a yellow dog, yellow pad of paper and stop
Yeah.
it over, I'll pretty it up in AutoCAD.
Yeah.
so.
Go ahead.
So let's
Go ahead,
look at
Dave.
this. I'll go nice and simple. You ready? If I look at it as the first floor, one floor being the equivalent of 10 people, 1,650 square feet. Replicating that on the second floor. It would give room for, 165 square foot conference room on the first floor, whatever size you need on the second floor.
Hmm.
And that would be what you would, a rough idea of what you would need for an annex. And if I took that 1650, and let me go back, sorry, I keep doing this the wrong way. Go back here, share, and I go back to this one, and I go, okay, if I take we mentioned assessor and treasurer, tax collector being on in the same side. And then town clerk on the other side with the hallway in between. And maybe the bathrooms on the town clerk side, the office on the town, something like that, the conference room on the town clerk side, something like that.
Yep.
As an idea for where we're gonna start, as a starting point, type of thing. I don't necessarily see the need for an elevator to be right in the beginning of the building. But I could see an elevator being like towards the middle. Or
It
something
has
like
to
that.
be in the middle. It has to be in the middle, Dave, because I think it has to, we might not be able to get these floors exact.
Okay.
You might not be able to, the floor, the basement to first floor elevation of the Ritter, we might not be able to make that work like right to the letter of the thing. You might have to have multi-stop or something.
Okay, all right, yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know, and that's the whole thing. I guess that's the biggest thing I'm trying to figure out is that you see the footing that they show here for the annex.
We're not looking at that. We're looking at the
Oh, sorry,
spreadsheet.
dude. Okay, let me go back to my annex picture. Sorry, I got.
It's all right.
If you see, they show a block footing
Yeah.
on the annex being the same height as some kind of footing.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, but it's not. It's half a floor off.
Well,
Right.
what I'm saying to you, what I'm looking at is are these 5 steps, whatever the number of steps for the front door of the present Ritter? Is that
basement.
is that the same number of steps
That go down.
that go down?
I don't think it is. I think you need to drop the elevation so if you can picture walking into the Ritter.
Hold
in
on,
the
hold on,
parking
wait,
lot.
wait. Hold on, bear with me a second here. I
took a look at this really quickly last meeting.
West elevation. I think this is the one. I think yeah, here it is.
So if you take where that person's standing,
Yes,
I think you have to go down about 1.5 feet to the basement floor of the Ritter.
right. So, like I said, oh, and by the way, 63 edition. Yeah, there you go, 1963.
63,
edition.
thank you, 1960s.
So,
I think we need to drop the parking lot a foot-ish, 1.5 feet maybe. But
Well-
by the way, there's plenty of grade to still get that to work with,
Yes.
going out to Lancaster Ave. But I think
Correct.
you'd have to drop the elevation there.
And by the way, I'm going to agree with you because right here, if you look, let me go make this bigger for those who, you can see right here, they're saying Ritter
Yeah.
upper,
Yeah.
Ritter lower, and
Yeah.
you can see it's
Yeah,
roughly.
there it is right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is right there. About
Right.
1.5 feet, I think.
Right. So we're
Yeah.
not that far, guys, we're not
It's
that
not that
far
far
off.
off.
Right.
But a standard floor to floor distance in modern buildings, and Tony can correct me if I'm wrong, it's 12 feet. 12 feet. And this is suggesting 10 feet. So can we design it? Maybe. I'm not saying we can't. I'm no architect, but we might not be able to hit those floors perfect, is my point. We might have to
And
tweak
and
it
by
a
the
little.
way, the feeling I have is for the use of the Ritter in the basement, if there had to be a ramp that went down a foot.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Or up a foot,
Yeah.
say.
No ramps in buildings.
Okay.
Well,
If you
no.
were gonna account for the 2 foot difference between 10 foot and
That's
12
correct.
foot,
I understand now. Yes, I
you
do.
would,
Yeah.
you would do it
16
by
feet, yeah.
adjusting the elevation of the new addition to the grade level that is represented by Mass Avenue. That's where you would want to make the
Yeah.
adjustment.
You'd pick a floor. It's either the
Yeah.
basement or it's the first floor that you want
Yeah.
to match.
Yep,
And if let's just say it's the first floor you want to match, you
right.
drop the basement lower in the new addition.
Yeah,
You'd have steps maybe into it, but you'd do a multi-stop elevator.
yeah,
And that's how you would do it for
Right.
handicapped accessibility.
right.
And maybe you'd want to match the basement floor, but then if you needed another foot or two, you'd have that up. You'd have steps down into the old Ritter, but you'd have a multi-stop elevator.
Right.
So instead of a 3-floor elevator, you'd have a 4-stop elevator. But it's
Right.
not you're not adding you're adding some cost, but you're not adding incremental costs,
Right.
on an elevator. I don't think.
Okay. Understand. All right, guys. Hey, I see I'm hitting my 7 o'clock. And plus I got, well, we still had a quorum, so we're okay there.
So-
But,
So someone draw something for me and I'll start to
Yeah.
sketch it so we can look at it. And then, not that that's the final answer, but, and we don't even have to use it. I'm just saying, at least if we can get a pretty picture on the screen, we can start to say, maybe some things will start to emerge.
well, no, I agree with you, Greg, because I look at it as if we can do a picture, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
And I
then
can do that.
And then bring it to town manager and the town offices and say, what do you think?
Yeah.
We're
I'm happy
90%.
to do it.
Right,
I'm happy
because-
to do it. Yeah.
To me, I'd like this group to come out of this thing with pretty much the floor plan done. And the
Yeah.
job of the architect is to make it look pretty,
Yeah.
instead of paying an architect to do the stupid stuff, we need to
And
pay him to make it look
to
pretty.
swear at us as they're doing it, because
Yes,
we're not, none of us are architects, but we'll do the best we can.
yeah, yeah.
But
Well-
at least we can get a schematic floor plan so we can kind of, start looking at it on paper.
Okay, so I think the biggest thing I have right now is I'm gonna look around, let me look at old documents and see if I can figure out what the square footage that people were looking earlier at. And just kind of use that as a way to as we're doing this bubble diagram of
Yeah.
what it would be like, type of thing. And
Okay.
that I think would be beneficial, if I said, okay, the town clerk's office, we're talking about say 500 square foot safe, and they need another
Yeah.
500 square feet, fine.
Yeah, that's what
No.
I need. And then
Yeah.
I can kind of piece it together, and if someone like Tony wants to sketch something out for me, I can blast it into CAD.
Okay, let me look, I'll take a look, Greg, Tony, I'll take a look and see what I can find as far as like what was given before and what we would have as things like that. And, you know, look, if we're doing a different annex, who says the door stays where it is? You
Right.
know, maybe the door becomes centered
Yeah,
versus off center.
right.
I mean,
Yep.
that's all easy stuff to do.
It is.
And make it look, you know, the fact of the matter, if that was the case, and when you walked in, you looked all the way down into the old Ritter. You know, maybe that would give this a more spatial feel to the whole place or something like that. I don't know. It's just, you know, spitting here.
Dave, let me make a suggestion and eliminate some work for you. I think that what we ought to do is see how big of an annex we can make, and it makes sense.
Okay,
And then we can say, okay, who do we put in there, and how much space do we really need? And I think that, and one of the reasons why I don't want you to go back to looking at that stuff that was driven, you know, that kind of drove the discussions 3 years ago or 4 years ago, is I think it's out of date. I mean, I think we would be better off to say, here's the topography, here's what we've got, and here's what we could do in the way of an addition, and see how that can serve the town's manpower needs. And I think what we're going to find is that it's going to be adequate.
yep, yeah,
Yeah, I think we can put that together
Yeah,
relatively simply.
I would agree. And then we need to go back to the town manager. I mean, I think that this is
Yeah.
really a key piece, is that
But yeah, but
because
if we get something on paper, we can it's easier to solicit feedback.
if we give her, you know, what the walls look like and where things are, like elevators and entryways, I think she'll have really good instincts on how to cluster the people within
Yeah.
that area.
I agree.
okay, excellent, excellent. I think I appreciate group. I think we're working on a good plan here, and I think we're moving forward fairly well, you know? I'm not doing what my favorite old boss is saying, which was push forward without moving ahead. I think we're actually pushing forward and moving ahead at the same time. And I think we can really do something really nice, that this town could be proud of, a building that would say, you're in Lunenburg, and this is, you know, that kind of, and this is Lunenburg type of thing. And I think that would also, it's also in the long run, I think it's gonna help the whole center of town. If you're making this a destination, it's gonna help increase everything in the center of town, type of thing. Maybe somebody would finally want the gas station. You know, but no comment there. That's okay. All right, excellent. Okay, so I'm good. How's everybody when it looks for schedule for next meeting? You know, it would end up being on my calendar, would end up being December 1st. Thoughts on that?
Good for me.
So far, so good for me.
I won't be around, but that's okay.
You're not gonna join us from some foreign country, Tom?
December 1st is good for me. Wait, oh, okay, now I saw something, that's fine. Just as an FYI from my own schedule, if we were to meet again on the 15th, the planning board is meeting once on the 15th instead of twice on the 8th and the 22nd in December. So if we meet on the
Oh.
15th, I will miss that meeting.
Okay.
That's
What-
not good for me, Matt. You need to reconsider that.
Oh,
I'm
that
just
it
kidding.
is great for us. So
I'm just kidding.
What time do you guys meet?
6.
Okay, okay, so that's tough, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So let's just look at, so I'll put it out for December 1st. The goal for December 1st is we're gonna start looking, we'll have something we'll have a scratch pad to start scratching our heads on. Okay, and
Yeah.
but by the way, I know I showed Pack the Taylor and Burns thing. However, if we ended up leaving those rooms, you know, some of those rooms upstairs on the second floor, and, you know, and whatever they wanted, if they wanted to do it, use it for something today, but future expansion could be future expansion.
Yeah, we need to get to the town hall building or the meeting house, whatever we're calling it. But I think we should focus our efforts initially here on
Agree.
what the
Yeah.
what the town hall Ritter expansion will look like, and then the rest of it will flow. We know we're not adding square footage to the town hall, so it's just a matter of internal partitioning in the
Yep.
town hall. So
I'm with you.
That's
I'm-
easier.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Okay, excellent. All right, guys. I guess this is, I'm supposed to say, public comment from the public, public comment from the committee. Great.
I make a
All right.
motion, we adjourn.
I got a motion.
I'll second.
All right, let's
Second.
see. Okay, Brian, what do you think?
Aye. Aye.
Greg? Greg? All right, Tom,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
and an aye for me. Guys, thank you again so much. Appreciate this conversation. It's a great group and look forward to hearing from most of you on December 1st.
Great.
Excellent. Thanks again, guys. Take
Thanks,
care.
everybody.
All right.
Take care, everybody.